Um, okay, so last week I made some videos, first ever videos actually, on OCD and depersonalization disorder, and I don't feel they went quite like I had hoped. So I wanted to make a few more this week, also because it's OCD Action Week, and the videos I've been finding online are really good so far, and usually sorry, I'm so nervous. Usually if the person with OCD themselves are talking about their illness, usually it's pretty accurate. Um, but what I found is that the portrayals of OCD in the media, and even when you're looking online for what OCD is, it doesn't exactly explain it in the way that it ought to. So that's really what I wanted to do here, to talk about. I said this in my previous video and I don't feel like I did that, but I really hope that in this video I can discuss the more severe ways in which an OCD sufferer lives. So again, I'm just going to pull some examples from my own life and hope that, mostly I hope that it will enlighten people that don't really know what OCD is, but more than anything, I hope that it will reach out to some people that are experiencing some similar issues, but that they don't know that it's OCD, because that was me for over 14 years, probably 20 years, as I was discussing last week. And I had no idea it was OCD. So firstly, OCD can go pretty much hand in hand with depression and a long list of other mental illnesses. And I had quite severe depression. I had depression ongoing throughout my life, but I had quite severe depression, or have. But it was a lot more severe before getting diagnosed, actually. And depression after I left university. I tried to find a few different jobs. And every job that I got, I couldn't stick to because of the OCD symptoms. And at university, everything was controlled. I lived on campus for 4 years. You're not supposed to, but I always sort of managed to find a way somehow. Not by being honest, actually. Usually by lies, by lying. I've spent my life lying to people to keep them off of my path, to keep them from knowing the truth. Because even though I didn't know the truth, I just thought that I was going crazy and I had no idea what was really going on. So I was like, so the jobs, I had a few different jobs, care homes, bakeries, really bad jobs, pet shops after uni. I didn't want to be working in a professional space, which I guess you should look for after uni, but I didn't want that because I knew there was something not quite right going on in my head. And OCD was taken up. More than ever, my OCD got so much worse after university. So every job that I did get, I eventually had to leave within about 2 months. I think the longest I had was 6 months, because I couldn't keep lying. I couldn't keep carrying out my rituals at work, and in the end it just got too much. I had like a 3-hour shift in the morning around the bakery where I used to work, and just leaving my house each morning to go to work, it was exhausting. And people work 10 hours a day and they don't complain or they don't feel that it was difficult, but for me, that just leaving my house for those 3 hours was really hard. I had a lot of rituals before I'd even walk out of the house, and then I'd have even more once I arrived at work. I remember crying so many times in the bathroom, and just hoping I would make it through those 3 hours. Eventually, I just broke, and because, as I mentioned in my previous video, I collapsed with anxiety attacks. That had happened while I was working, and my employer had seen that and fired me. Yeah, and that was hard. So after that, I felt even more angry with myself, because a lot of OCD sufferers feel a lot of disgust, anger, and shame. I think almost all, actually. So yeah, that was that. And then after that, this was about 2 years ago. I'm sorry, really bad with memories right now. So after that, I thought I would try to force myself into another job, but I at this point I just couldn't. I was so exhausted from all the lies. So I fell into what I think my doctor or medical professionals would call mental breakdown. And I spent about 6 months in my room, and I didn't leave my bed. My mum did everything for me. She brought me my food, and that was quite a severe time. Sorry. It's really shameful to admit, but after those 6 months, my hair, for example, was so matted because I hadn't brushed it, I hadn't washed it, I hadn't done a thing. I'd been just frozen for like 6 months. Yeah, so, you know, a lot of people might just view that as laziness. I know I did. I know that when I was living when I was living through that, I thought, this is so lazy, Sam, just get out of bed and do something. But your mind is more powerful, and I knew that if I'd stayed in bed, at least that way I wanted to stay frozen, you know. At some point I think I wanted to feel comatized, but nothing was getting better. So eventually I'm just tried to make a change, and I started asking my mum if we could do some exercise. So that was the year we started power walking, and we just got out a little bit around my streets, and that really helped. So I'm going to get to the OCD soon, sorry. Whew. One of the ways my OCD affects me is tapping and equalizing. So if I'm walking, I did briefly mention this the other day, but I didn't explain how severe it is. If I'm walking and my leg, I'm doing it now even on the table, if I touch my hand once, I have to feel the exact same, have to generate the same feeling. Whew. Yeah, so when I'm walking, it can take, yesterday I had therapy, and it took me it was a 2-minute walk from the bus stop to the hospital, and it took me about 10 minutes because of all of the lines in the pavement and the cracks. I cannot walk on the cracks, so if I do, because you know you're going to, it's natural that you will. If I do, then I have to find another crack which is almost identical and walk on it to equalize. And the hardest part for me is people's reactions to that. Like if I'm walking with my mum, she'll say to me, you know, just don't do it, just ignore it, you know, just walk on one crack and don't walk on the other. It sounds so stupid. And I tried to take that advice, and actually in terms of recovery, that is pretty much what we're supposed to be doing, ignoring the compulsions and the rituals and just not equalizing. And but trying to do that, I get into a lot of panic. And there are two types of things that happen to me. There are two things that happen to me when I don't step on the pavement as I'm supposed to, but step on the crack. The first is that I feel I won't feel right. A part of my body that I haven't equalized doesn't feel right, and I can be walking for 20 minutes, and if I've ignored it, I'll still have to equalize just before I get home. All of the little things that I've missed along the way. I think I've probably built up quite a good memory, and then not also because I don't remember a lot of things, but I can always remember when I didn't equalize. So that's one way it affects me. And another is sometimes I'll have an intrusive thought pop into my head, like if I don't equalize or do the ritual, this will kill someone. My mum will die. Sometimes I'm in bed and I could be lying there at 3 a.m. Because I'm awake till about 6 a.m. with the intrusive thoughts as well. So, and I have to spend a lot of my evening mentally going over what I've been doing in the whole day. I can't switch off. So that's a lot of what OCD is as well. I'm not explaining this at all, sorry. Really difficult, wow. So yeah, that's just, so it will be about 3 a.m. and a random thought will pop into my head, like I have to walk across the room and touch whatever object, like the desk or something, and if I don't do it, my mum will die. I also have, that's called magical OCD, and I also have that on, like, for example, I can't explain how I have it, but I'll give examples. Just the other day, the number 62 popped into my head, and for anybody else that would be just, it's a number, just, I don't even think a non-sufferer would give any thought to the number. I think it would pop into the head and go out of the head as soon as it's entered. But for me, that number meant something, and I knew what it meant immediately. I didn't even have to second guess it. It meant to me that, your mum will die when she reaches 62. Which is stupid, and I know that it's stupid, I can appreciate that, but I then had to create a bigger number in my head, so I would say, I'm not equalizing, sorry, so I would say 92, my mum would die at 92, she'll die at 92, and this would go on for about 3 hours, and it's exhausting. Even as I'm talking to you now, I'm trying to equalize the feeling that I get when I brush my tongue against my teeth, and it's just the smallest things, and nobody can live that way. You can't concentrate on any conversation with other people or live a normal life because you're constantly trying to battle this, like I said before, this demon or beast inside of you, and that's what it feels like. Like none of my thoughts that feel like my own anymore. Well, I had so much more to talk about, but I just completely. I'm going to start slow with these videos. Hopefully, if people keep watching them, I will reach the more severe stages of OCD later on. But for now, I think that's probably all I could say about it. I did want to say one more thing, though. Again, it involves, I'll give an example. In the previous video, I mentioned about pills, and they're one of my triggers when I'm walking down the road. But they were just an example, and everything on the road is a trigger to me. So, if I see, for example, I'm trying really hard not to equalize. if I see, for example, oh gosh, a bottle on the street, people's normal reaction to the bottle would just, again, just to walk by the bottle. But everything on the street bothers me. Everything. Like, I don't know how to explain this without sounding, I don't like to use the word crazy, and I wouldn't ever use it to describe another person, but when it comes to my feelings, that's all it ever feels like, crazy. So, again, sorry, I feel like I'm losing myself here. So, I have a lot of false memories, like I mentioned the other day, and if I see the bottle in the street or the pill packet or whatever it may be, it will bother me to extremes. I will have to cross the other side of the road to avoid the bottle, the pills. There are so many other examples, but I can't think of them now. And in doing so, in crossing the road, I'm still not convinced that somehow that bottle or that pack of pills or whatever it may be, there are so many examples, hasn't affected me somehow. I'm not just worried that they're there. I'm worried that it's really difficult to explain. And it's all to do with false memories. So I'll, for example, vision myself, say it was a pack of pills. I'll envision myself picking up the pills, investigating them, even taking them or drinking out of the bottle. Things that usually it's the exact opposite of what I want to do. So it's my exact fear, and I'll envision it. And it's there before I can even get it out of my head. I'll try to... It's an intrusive thought. I don't want to pick up the pack of pills, but it's popped into my head before I can even get it out. So the more the intrusive thought occurs in my head, the more it's planted there. And therefore, I'm now thinking, I must have touched the pills. You know what? I think I took 2 of the pills. I must have done, because I remember doing it. And I know in my heart that I didn't touch the pills, but none of that matters now, because it's there in my head, and so that's what I'll spend the whole day going over. And this is in every part of my life. I can't even walk into the kitchen and prepare food, or take medicine, get a drink, without having these intrusive thoughts. And there are different and varying degrees of intrusive thoughts, which, if I'm brave enough, one day I'll get into them, but it will take a long time, I guess, because they are so severe and distressing. That's the one thing I think people don't understand about the thoughts. We all have thoughts, but to the OCD sufferer, they are just so distressing because they can't switch them off, and I constantly question what these thoughts mean about me, and I don't know, it's really difficult to explain. So I feel like I've covered the intrusive thoughts for now, and the equalizing when I walk. I did just say that it was walking when I'm sort of out of the house, but and tap in and everything, but it's not that, it's everything. When I'm in the kitchen, for example, we have a really small kitchen, or anywhere actually, I should explain that. When I'm walking, I don't like anybody to be around me, because if somebody, like my mum's always doing this, she'll tap me on one side of my arm, and if she taps me, I will feel the urge I'd have to equalize that. I couldn't have somebody just tap my arm without tapping the other one. And for so many years that's bothered me, and I've just tried to live with it. But my OCD has got so much worse as well with the more physical side of it. It used to be just it never used to be actually, it was a mix, but it was much more controlled by mental rituals and compulsions. But nowadays it's taken a grasp of the physical ones too. So I try to avoid people coming near me or coming into contact myself with objects like the wall, or and if I do, if I brush past the wall, I'll have to repeat the same action again on my left side, or if it were my right side, I'll have to just repeat the action. Wow, sorry, we've gone into 20 minutes, so I'm definitely going to cut it now because I'm going on and on. But yeah, I hope that, I don't know what these videos will achieve, if anything at all, but I hope that, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm going to upload this right now.